Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
Say that again.
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
The NFL Draft is coming to Detroit, and you can be there for free. Experience the ultimate NFL fan fest. Go to nfl.com/draft access. The NFL Draft, presented by Bud Light, April 25th through the 27th.
One more.
Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
That's a great service.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
And I hope that airline is Turkish Airlines, because they're fantastic, and they've really opened up the rest of the world. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Soon to go daily service, and I'm not a paid endorser. Although if they want to send me a ticket for that, jeez, I wish. Anyway, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I'm Saeed Khan, broadcasting from the wonderful D, which has become the epicenter of the world, or at least the NFL football world. So there we go. I mean, to quote the great David Bowie, we can be heroes just for one weekend, maybe.
or Panic in Detroit.
Yes, well played. Yes, well played. Oh my God, I thought you were gonna I thought that was Giuliani again, and I was like, oh no.
Oh no, not true.
It's a little early for Rudy.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I'm waiting for your AI to develop self-awareness, Alan, and then that's just going to put it up there whenever it wants.
Right.
All right. Well, we're joined by author of Summer on Fire, author and radio personality Peter Werbe. We are joined by one of our usual troika of lawyers today, Joel Sklar. The other two, Steve Fishman and Bill Sekley, are busy. We have labor and community activist Barb Ingalls. Also, they let you know that Nancy Derringer is still trekking around the world somewhere, so she won't be joining us, but hopefully she's tuned in if she's loyal. And then, of course, we've got co-founder from Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. So, first up...
It's Peter Werbe, by the way.
Thank you.
Peter Werbe. Sorry.
Just don't call me late. Hey,
I saw him wince when you said his name.
Just point of information, though, about this NFL draft. When did this go to this level of spectacle? I mean, I was in a bar shooting pool last night. Everybody is glued to it. They're showing Detroit 250,000 people standing out in the street. What am I missing? What don't I understand?
Yeah, Detroit went nuts.
That's a really good question.
The draft has been huge viewing for years.
Oh, has it?
They held at one site for years. And so now they're spreading out. And when you come to a starved town like this, who is bathing in the excellence of the season and has some recognition, to have the crowd, those Lions fans turn out, that's what we are, man. This is a football town, and it was great to see.
It looked like Times Square on New Year's Eve.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it myself.
The hats and everything. And what were they watching, like a jumbotron or something?
Yeah, no, they were watching also the big sort of half dome stage where it was being broadcast. Hey, Nancy's dialing in from Firenze, Florence, for you and me. Buona sera, Nancy. Well, apparently yesterday's crowd was 275,000, which apparently Kansas City, which hosted it last year, had a total attendance of 310,000.
Wow.
So the last closest, I think, or the record was, I think, somewhere in Tennessee where it was 210,000. So we shattered the single day record easily.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of us being so starved for like national attention and it being a big event, and the Lions. You know, there's such a swelling of Lions fans now who are in the pride there. I mean, if you go downtown, there's huge pictures of the Lions, Hutchinson, and all the other folk, Gibbs. They're all over, and it's it's a nice event, and the Lions have become so noted for picking amazing drafts in the last couple of years that I think people now have faith that whatever they do, and they did. They drafted a defensive player as their first
cornerback
from
Alabama.
Yeah. And I think that person's really a top-notch person. So, which they're missing a couple of little pieces, and that may be one of them.
By the way, we have an update. We've got Detroit Free Press investigative columnist ML Elrick joining us. ML, here's the quiz for you today. What album turns 30 years old today? This is from Barb.
Mitch album?
Well played.
Wrong name here. Wrong name to mention here.
Well, I think whom you mentioned will just keep as a blur. It was Park Life by Blur. So there we go. All right, Barb, you had your hand up.
I was going to say, as a person that has no interest whatsoever in any kind of sports, I'm still really, it's, and you hold your breath. It's like, please, Detroit, please be good. But we know, because we are Detroiters, we know that we live in a beautiful place and we live in a city that could really use the bump. And it's nice to see it all shiny. I am disturbed by the news of homeless people being picked up en masse and moved somewhere else, but they always do it when there's going to be a lot of people there. It is supposedly a free weekend, and if you can get past the $100 parking fees, $100 for a couple hours, but I think mostly this is a good thing. I doubt if any of the money is going to come into anybody, but I was going to say something nice, and people are bringing the truth into it,
So one of the things that people can do is, if you want, you can park at any of the parking structures at Wayne State University, which is $9 with your credit card. You can take the queue line down. But apparently yesterday, there were crowds of somewhere like 50 people queued up to ride the queue line. Or the other way that you can do it is you can still take the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel across to Windsor at $6.50 each way, so that's $13. So go park in Windsor where it's cheaper, and then swim back across.
We take the fast bus downtown Woodward, and because I'm a senior citizen, it's 50 cents each way, and it's clean and it's fast. And I pick it up in front of the zoo, and it'll drop me off anywhere I want downtown in 20 minutes. It's fantastic. So,
or some people are paying friends to drive them downtown. I mean, what kind of friend wants to be paid to drive you downtown?
I would take.
The price of gas went back up, Peter. So I'll do it. I'll do it. Of course, the real gangster move is to fly to LA, then fly back, and then take the $6 bus from the airport to downtown. So there's plenty of options to get there on the cheap. But what does it say that also the coverage of Detroit and the national perception of Detroit is also changing? We're no longer seen as the punchline for jokes on late night television. I mean, it seems as though people have kind of come around. Yeah, Allan.
I really think the turning point on the Detroit narrative was really Super Bowl 2011 with the M&M Chrysler commercial, where people were like, it captured Detroit. It didn't bullshit you that Detroit's an amazingly beautiful, perfect city, but it showed the grit and character. And I think I had people from other parts of the country who said, wow, Detroit. And some said, oh, I want to buy that Chrysler, and I think that sort of opened people's eyes a little bit, because, all the magazines, Newsweek, Time, but all they wanted were crime stories out of Detroit. The national news, all they expected was crime stories. And suddenly it was like, wow, Detroit, now you see some of the Detroit restaurants, they'll be written up in the New York Times like 3 times. So
Tony Bourdain helped too.
Trying to,
it wasn't just Dearborn. It wasn't just Dearborn that was a no-go zone for the country. It was Detroit.
It was the whole
Can you see this? Can you see?
We can see.
Don't criticize Detroit unless you can back it up, chump.
Oh.
That's
I can't
well
get
played.
Yeah.
Well played.
that's good.
Listen,
All right.
every
Well,
city shines. It's
Peter
wonderful.
wrestling with a
And they do.
anti-Detroiter somewhere? What's going on there?
No, he's got a poster. Come back, Peter.
Well, yeah, I think
All
he
right.
might have logged himself out. But the other thing is, there's news now that they're going to be opening up a hotel that's going to be attached to the convention center, which apparently is a major prerequisite for a lot of people looking to hold conventions. So Detroit might pick up even more business and attendance that way. So
And
let's
we're
see where
getting
we
a
go.
city winery.
There are 5 to 6
Center.
NFL teams within a 4-hour drive to Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, both teams from Ohio. And if you want to stretch another half hour, Terry, I would even get you to Pittsburgh. So you've got that as well. So yeah, we've got a real good synergy for people coming, and it's really been electric. On the other hand, of course, we got Nancy saying the city looks best when it retains some of its danger. Screw Disneyland,
You're right.
Detroit. You're right. All right.
I
We
like
can then
Funk Detroit, but
Yeah. What would we keep to be edgy? ML. What defines edgy Detroit, other than your column? You're on mute.
Oh, let's see here. Let me get him unmuted.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
So what defined edgy Detroit is when we came up with organic valet parking, and that's where a complete stranger takes your car and you don't know where he's taking it or when he's going to bring it back. And you don't have to tip them because they may have shot you in the face.
there you are.
I think we need to resurrect the bad boys and make them the even worse boys, given that the Pistons can only go in one direction, which is up. So I think that would add a lot. But so this is a shout out to you, Barb, that the next item is going to be based on a Deep Purple song, Trump's hush money trial and dispatches. Yes, thank you very much. Right now, as we speak, probably the most Beavis and Butthead inducing name that's come down the pike in a while, David Pecker. By the way, if anybody wants, go to YouTube and catch the Saturday Night Live clip with Ryan Reynolds from 2 weeks ago as Beavis. It is absolutely hilarious.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. The whole episode was really one of the best in decades. But we've got the hush money trial going on in New York. We've got former National Enquirer publisher and parent company AMI head David Pecker, good time, a once-time friend of Donald Trump, but with immunity, is singing like a canary for the prosecution about the misfeasance that went on regarding Pecker and Michael Cohen, Trump's fixer at the time, to bury stories and what I guess they call catch and kill.
Capture. Or is it catch? Is it catch and kill or capture?
No, it's catch and kill.
Is it catch and kill? Okay. Catch and kill, that kitschy title. So anyways, the idea now is that I believe it's his 4th day on the witness stand. And is anyone following it? And how do you see it going so far?
I'm following Maggie Haberman's, updates, and she's wonderful. It seems like it's going very well for the prosecution because the prosecution is putting on the case. It seems like Pecker is giving damning testimony. He seems remarkably credible. He seems very calm. On the other hand, Trump is agitated. So what we're seeing is the prosecution doing a very nice job putting the case together. There's an adage in the law: you want to start strong, you want to finish strong. This may be their best witness, their strongest witness, who can tell it a complete story and put it all together, and all that will follow will fill in those pieces. So it seems like the prosecution is going as well as the prosecution could want.
Even publications that seem to be much more sympathetic to Trump usually are coming up with headlines like "Pecker stands tall." So, it seems as though they're acknowledging what's going on.
Well, so what is it? an ex-president, a porn star, and a guy named Becker walk into a bar, right? Still in the rest. I don't know about you guys, but I'm suffering from Trump exhaustion syndrome.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you said you were, following Maggie Haberman, who's an incredible reporter. I find myself just looking at the headlines and thinking, that's enough. Call me when the decision is in, which I predict will be a hung jury. Anybody else?
Well,
I think there's I think there's a possibility of that because there's always that possibility that someone just says, you know what, this case is bullshit. I'm sorry, this is the president of the United States, former president. What is this all about? I mean, if he's just trying to cover up, he doesn't want to be embarrassed for his wife or something. It could happen. It could happen. I think what is particularly interesting is that here's a guy who's railed about fake news all this time, and here he is being part of this whole conspiracy of fake news, of pushing out stories about Ted Cruz's father being part of the assassination and all that kind of stuff. And the guys
spread it around.
I think at minimum, what's going to happen is that Trump is going to lose it. He cannot sustain this. Yeah. He looks like a madman, and he looks like a beaten up guy. And I think it's only begun. He's ADD. He's a narcissist. To see people come and testify against him, and to have the judge with his foot on his neck like that, I think it's going to be too much. Yeah, I think it's going to be too much for him.
Well, Karen, you're absolutely right. We should never forget Anthony Carlos Danger Wiener. He's still always lurking around somewhere. Well, one of the things that it seems like Trump really waits for, since he's fairly disempowered in the courtroom, is when he comes out to the railing outside the courtroom and he speaks directly to the media. And Allan, I think you have a video of perhaps a solution that Trump might have when it comes to commandeering the media.
That Truth Social will soon begin streaming live TV to, quote, provide a permanent home for high-quality news and entertainment that face discrimination. And while you might not think much of their social media platform, Trump TV will be a formidable presence.
The mainstream media lies.
Everybody knows that Joe Biden won the election. Climate change is real.
Vaccines work. The radical left uses television to indoctrinate your children. Lesbian couples have infiltrated our laundry detergent commercials. There's never been a better time for Truth Social TV, the streaming platform for red-blooded heterosexual patriots whose pronouns are and Biden.
It's like better than television.
Well, I mean, it seems like it's having some impact. The primaries in Pennsylvania, Trump did win the GOP nod over there by 83% of the vote, but he's practically running unopposed. Nikki Haley, who dropped out a couple of months ago, got 150,000 votes. Yeah. I mean, that almost is like when Mel Carnahan, a dead guy, beat John Ashcroft in Missouri in the Senate race back in 2000. Is Trump dealing with a kind of uncommitted or a never Trump vote out there? And is this sort of a harbinger for what might be coming up?
I think yes. I think it's the equivalent of what Biden's had to deal with uncommitted in Michigan, Minnesota, some of the other places. I think people are looking for a place to land. But, I was having a discussion yesterday about it, and it's like, do you vote your conscience and your purity, and do you vote for who you really want to, like a third-party candidate, or do you hold your nose and vote for the lesser of two evils? And look, the races. I mean, yeah. Go ahead, Peter.
I would say we are.
Yeah.
Voting for the lesser of the two evil.
Yeah.
I don't know if anecdotes are that instructive, but I play handball. One bunch of guys are these East Side conservative Catholics, older guys, my age and younger, some small business owners, Republicans all their life, and they just think Trump is terrible. One of them said to me, I hope I never hear Biden or Trump's name again, which is good. Yeah. One guy said, I might not even vote. Good.
Yeah.
So Peter, are they pretty much then saying that Hunter's not going to run in 2032?
Hey, by the way, the Don, I like that the Drudge report, which that Matt Drudge has turned completely against Trump and refers to him as the Don in the sense of the mafia, and he reported that Trump said that he is not sleeping in court; he is praying.
Right.
Oh,
wow!
He's a religious man.
And breaking wind. As a special message to God.
Do you think he's going to take the oath if he takes a stand on that $60 Bible that he's plugging? Yeah, you're right, Peter. I mean, you've got Drudge saying "Dirty Pecker" back on stand in NYC.
That's the
so yeah, so you've got that. But look, it looks like Trump is perhaps in some more trouble legally. Here in Michigan, the fake electors plot case is going forward, and he's been named as an unindicted co-conspirator. And in fact, there are several Trump acolytes, including, wait for it, Alan, Rudy Giuliani, and also Mark Meadows, among others, who are charged in Arizona in that case state's 2020 false electors plot. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. There's something weird.
We have another one.
Speaking of peckers on the stand,
I think it's interesting. Unindicted co-conspirator. I mean, it's always. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything. It basically says, yeah, we didn't have really enough for whatever to indict, but they were part of the conspiracy. But it's like what happened. It happened with Coleman Young in the early '80s during the Vista sludge hauling. The prosecutors wanted to name Coleman Young as an unindicted co-conspirator, and I think it was Judge Damasio, said, no, you either indict him or not. Don't do this unindicted. I mean, it dirties people by including him as unindicted co-conspirator, but it doesn't hold them legally responsible for anything. So
maybe not legally, Alan, but I remember after 9/11, there were a lot of Muslim American organizations that were named unindicted co-conspirators,
right.
And it really wrecked them. I mean, their ability to raise funds, their ability to really operate within the public space. I think really even to this day, a lot of them bear that stigma.
But are you going to can you harm Trump's reputation by including him? I mean,
neither side.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And that's the thing, that there's a certain Teflon Don about him, or Teflon the Don.
Can I add one thing real quick? Yeah. Just real quick, is that juries don't like Trump. You can see, at least in New York, he is not appealing to a jury. He treats a jury with disdain. He treats a jury with disrespect. He tries to intimidate a jury. In the courtroom, the jury has the power. I think we're told. He wants to hold people accountable. I think the way that Trump's going to conduct himself in this trial, as he already has, anybody who may be holding out for Trump may lose sympathy real quick when they see what this guy really is. Not how he portrays himself, but how the fuck he really is, which is a disgusting, repulsive human being. They may change. And so Trump's conduct is going to dictate the result. And his conduct was awful in the Jean Carroll trials. That's why he got a massive verdict. He walked out during closing on the jury. His judgment with these is terrible. His conduct is going to reveal who he is, and I think there will be a conviction. I don't think there's going to be a hung jury. I think this guy, the more time you spend with him, the more disgusted you are with them. So,
I think also,
I would hope for a hung jury, because then Bragg will probably try him again.
I can't stand any more of this. Personally,
I think the one thing they possibly have going is that there's 34 counts, and I think sometimes juries don't realize there's 34 felonies. Juries are like, all right, I'll compromise. I'll give you 2 convictions, and then I won't convict on the other 32, thinking, but all they need is 1 conviction on a felony, and he's convicted. Right. And sometimes juries say, all right, let's compromise. We'll take this and that, and that could possibly happen. There's so many counts to hang on every count. Who knows? It could happen.
but he's going to do nothing endearing for the jury. They're not going to like him. They're not going to warm up to him. He's not going to. That's not what he is. That's not what he wants to present. He's cold, mean. He's distant. He's all the things you don't want your criminal defendant to be.
Yeah, but Joel, he might actually be praying for them with his eyes closed.
Yeah.
Well, he did look to be in prayer. Yeah.
He was sending up smoke signals too. So
right. As his lawyers are scattering. How disgusting that must have been.
ML, you're uncharacteristically silent.
With so much wisdom, I don't want to expose my ignorance.
Oh, wow.
Not make it obvious.
Never bothered me. So,
But one of the things that as we're talking about this trial that I and Joel, I'll defer to Joel since he seems to have paid more attention, is I wonder if there's going to be kind of a lack of revelations. I mean, everything that I've seen reported from David Pecker, I've already seen reported by the media. It doesn't seem like there's very much new evidence so far. And I wonder if the jury's going to look at this and say, I knew all this. He wasn't in jail before, so why should we put him in jail now? And I don't know what impact that has on the jury. And I also, as we're talking about his in-court demeanor, two guys come to mind, two friends in two different venues. One is Bobby Ferguson during the Kilpatrick public corruption trial, who brought his Bible to court every day and seemed to be very devout. And the jury still hammered the shit out of him until he ended up getting let out later. And the other one is Kwame Kilpatrick in 2007 in the civil case, the whistleblower trial, when he took the stand. And those of us who were in the media and in the courtroom thought that he was amazing on the witness stand, a bravura performance. And when we got to talk to jurors later on who found him responsible so quickly that I had to run back from a deli with a sandwich half eaten because I thought I was going to at least have time to order lunch, they said he just seemed like another slick politician to us. We didn't buy any of it.
Wow.
And that case started off, to come full circle, with sort of a lack of revelations. The plaintiff's attorneys basically established, we're not going to prove that there's a Manoogian Mansion party. This isn't about there being a Manoogian Mansion party. It's about something else. And I don't know whether the prosecution came out and said, hey, everything you're going to hear, you've heard before, but here's why it's criminal and not just the product of journalism. I don't know, but this guy, what's amazing about him is he does tell the truth. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and no one would do anything to him. And if foreign agents gave him information that would help him in his political future, he would take it. I mean, when he's telling the truth is when he's telling you the very worst things about him.
Yeah.
I think if Trump takes the stand, that'll be the end. Then it'll be 100% chance of conviction. Because I think juries do not like being lied to, and he is incapable of giving a straight story. And I think if he goes on there, he's going to be a very unlikable witness on that stand.
I think there are two things. One is that the prosecution's going to put the story together cohesively so all the parts fit and connect all the dots and, conceptually, visually, every way they possibly can, in a way that the jury may know the bits and pieces, but not how they all connect. And I think it's relatively simple how the prosecution is doing it. That I think is critical. Juries are so unpredictable. We never know what the hell they're going to do. But I think ML's insights are absolutely, correct. I think that ultimately at the end of the day, it's going to be Trump whose demeanor, the way he could just, Bobby Ferguson, maybe Kilpatrick, it's going to condemn him, and he's never going to take the witness stand. The guy doesn't know truth from, he doesn't know what the difference between truth and a lie is. Everything is a commodity. Nothing has meaning, truth or falsity. So if he'll never get on that stand because he'll get ripped up. Yeah. He's got to perjure himself or admit to line after lines after lie after lie. That's just not gonna. I can't believe that would happen.
Right. He can't stop calling people names.
You want to go to commercials now?
Yeah, just 45 seconds here.
You got
commercial.
The NFL Draft is coming to Detroit, and you can be there for free. Experience the ultimate NFL fan fest. Go to NFL.com/draft access. The NFL Draft, presented by Bud Light, April 25th through the 27th.
Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
Well, all I know is that 30 years on, I think the one thing that the OJ case taught us is that the prosecution is not going to make Trump wear a condom to see if he in fact had an affair with Stormy Daniels or Karen McDougal.
No. That's where the case falls apart. They bring him the actual condom, and he says, "No, get me a Magnum," because his ego is so big, and I'm told that will not fit.
Yeah.
Too big because of those little hands.
Little Bulgarian fingers.
Well, you know, those kinds of things only happen when you have bone spurs, ML. So it's all related. Well, one of the things that I mean, I know it's not on our agenda to talk about, but we could, is that the Supreme Court yesterday heard oral arguments about immunity and whether the president has it. And although, of course, the outcome is probably not going to happen until, I would suspect, maybe the last day of the term in June, because it looks like this particular court wants to slow walk this thing. What did you think about some of the oral arguments? I mean, when Trump's lawyer, responding to, I think it was either Justice Jackson or Sotomayor, said, yeah, assassinations are perfectly permissible and the president should be immune for that. And he didn't really seem to make a distinction between assassination of enemy combatants and assassination of political opponents.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, the fact that they took it up is terrifying. The fact that they're going to try to make these distinctions between private conduct and public conduct is terrifying. It's going to be, how are we going to make that demarcation? It's going to be a slippery slope. We aren't a monarchy, but I guess we are. And if the Supreme Court gives him some immunity for committing crimes against the fucking American people,
I think it's clear that
nobody's above the law. That's what we all learned. That's what we've all understood this democracy to be. And if it ends up being that a president is above the law, he's not a president anymore. He's a king.
They're trying to say, well, we're not really talking about this case, but we're really concerned about presidential powers and stuff like that. But we're talking about this case. This guy committed crimes, tried for the first time in our history to try to overthrow an election, to really basically have a coup. And they're trying to make a distinction and saying, well, was it public? Was it part of his job? Was it a private act? And it's such bullshit. They're going to send it back to the lower court. They're going to wait till the last minute, send it back to the lower court, tell the lower court to draw some distinctions and stuff. It's just all bullshit. It's so offensive to our system and our democracy.
No, it's the Dobbs court, man. It's a packed court, and the likelihood is that they're going to be carving out exceptions that are terrifying. It's not originalism. Originalism doesn't dictate it. You know, if you go for originalism, then there is nobody above the law. That the president is subject to all sorts of criminal liabilities for any crimes committed in office. I don't care what his capacity is. And this, again, is going to be another deterioration of a fundamental democratic principle that we've all grown up with, we've all believed to be true, which may not be true.
But if it was originalism, I mean, wouldn't that mean that 5 out of the 9 Supreme Court justices wouldn't have been able to sit on the Supreme Court, given the original view of women and African Americans? That would disqualify quite a few, even though, of course, the 3 Trump appointees didn't recuse themselves. But Joel, I have a legal question about this. I always thought that this case didn't have standing because it seems as though it's not ripe. It's all speculative about his immunity, and it should have been a matter that the January 6th case went through, and then to see if there was a conviction. And then the constitutionality about the conviction based on whether the president has immunity should have been adjudicated. It seems as though they're really ahead of the game here.
Well, yeah, I think that you have justices that can, Alito, Clarence Thomas, who shouldn't be doing anything here, are trying to
Except time.
right, correct, are simply trying to assist Trump in making the executive office impenetrable to criminal liability. You know, it's completely insane to me. I can't believe they took it up. I remember talking about this when they did take it up. The lawyers were in agreement. This is never. They're going to dismiss me. And I know it's going to go any place. My fear was that this Dobbs court could do any fucking thing they want. They can take away all sorts of rights that we have been around for 50, 60, 70 years, and they're gone. And this is what's happening. And this is when you pack a court. You know, you can look at what McDonald did. You know, with Ginsburg. You can say Ginsburg waited too long. We can go all the way back. These dominoes are falling, and now the real concrete consequences are visiting us. And this
right. And the court just heard this week the case on the Idaho abortion ban law as well. So one of the most restrictive in the country. But a little bit of, I suppose, good news is that the Arizona legislature passed a bill to repeal the rather odious 1864 comprehensive abortion ban, which had been upheld by the Arizona Supreme Court. So some blessings, I suppose, coming out of some places. Yes? No?
Yeah,
Maybe so?
Yeah, now it reverts to the 15-week limit in Arizona. And somewhere, I just saw that a second ago on the News or Free Press site, it said the Republican Party in Michigan is telling these far right-wing groups, don't bring up abortion. It's still a potent issue, to be sure.
Yep.
Right. I think when Pete Hoekstra speaks anywhere, I think that's going to be the word that's going to be shouted from the rooftops, just to remind people. Yep, Mel.
The beauty of politics is if you're around long enough, everybody reveals themselves to be who they are. And what we're seeing now is Republicans, for the most part, are, without exception, pro-life, unless it threatens their political life, in which case maybe life begins after the next election.
So we do have some news regarding Biden's polling. I mean, it seems as though he's starting to show, even in battleground states, some improvement with Trump. And just this week, Biden signed into law the $95 billion package for aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. It also
I got a video.
You got a video.
It's a good day for America, it's a good day for Europe, and it's a good day for world peace.
Oh, a good day for world peace. I've wanted one of those. I wonder what happened. Did the nations of the world finally band together to outlaw war? Did they finally buy everyone in the world a Coke?
Ago at the White House, President Biden signed a long-awaited aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan into law.
In total, about $95 billion will go toward assisting Ukraine and Israel's war efforts and money to counter China's aggression in the Indo-Pacific.
World peace. Okay. Is peace the one with the tanks? Is that the one? I went to public school that wasn't funded because they spent all that money on peace.
Oh, well, what about this ban on TikTok unless they sell it to an American interest? Apparently, TikTok is looking to fight this rather vigorously in the courts and has also signaled that if they are unsuccessful in getting judicial relief, that they would rather shut it down than have it fall into somebody else's hands.
You want to?
All right.
Go ahead.
So I am glad that TikTok is being brought to heel to some extent, but they're not going far enough. When are they going to go after Meta or Facebook or whatever the hell they call themselves, like the devil that has many names, and Google and all these other people who are collecting all this same information that they can use against us, that they're allowing other people to use against us without any consequence? Wasn't Mark Zuckerberg before Congress like 3 or 4 years ago saying AI was going to clean all this up and nothing's changed? I mean, listen, it's not great to have something like that owned by a pernicious foreign government that really doesn't believe in free expression and now is trying to argue we need to be able to express ourselves freely. But we have domestic social media corporations that are equally vile, and nobody's doing anything about them. This is the first time I've actually said, I wish Donald Trump would say, I want TikTok and Facebook and Twitter and all these other things shut down, because it seems the only time we actually make any progress on these social media things is if everybody's trying to catch up with Trump. Now, the exception to that is going to be like, Truth Social's okay. Don't worry about that. They're doing everything right. But yeah, this is, our social media companies have run amok. They're running over us. And the only one we're doing anything about is the one that's owned by the Chinese. Come on, don't stop there.
Well, Meta is actually right now contesting a case in India, which is, I think, by far its largest market. Instagram is running the risk of being shut down in India unless Meta gives India its algorithm, because India claims that they want to clamp down on quote unquote fake news and on other kinds of political and social untruths that are being bandied about. I'm not sure if Meta will capitulate, but given the market size of India, I think there's more people on Facebook in India than there are Americans. I mean, it's not hard with a population of 1.4 billion. Alan?
I have really mixed feelings. I mean, to start taking and forcing media companies to sell because we don't trust. I mean, there is reason to not look. The Chinese have been stealing intellectual property from the U.S. from corporations for decades now. The FBI has never been able to really hold them accountable. But that being said, we haven't figured out the internet, how to regulate the internet, how to what should be not allowed and disallowed. I mean, there was a book agent in DC, and he called me one day and he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a ghostwriter for a politician in Michigan." And I gave him a name of this very reputable journalist who was freelancing, an outstanding journalist. And he calls me back. The agent says, "I can't use him." And I go, "Why not?" And he says, "Well, there's something on the internet." And this guy wrote a story when he was at the Detroit News. And this guy created a website saying, "This reporter is a big fat liar." And I said, "Well, that is just total bullshit." And he says, "Yeah, I know it is, but I don't want to deal with it." And so where do we regulate the internet? We still haven't figured it out. It's still the Wild West in a lot of ways. And social media is another part of that Wild West frontier.
Yeah,
I don't know.
If you show Janet Jackson's boob on broadcast TV, you're sanctioned. If you allow someone to live stream a suicide or a murder, zero consequences. At least make these companies subject to the same broadcast publishing rules that traditional media are subject to. At least start there so we can bring them up to a standard that we've been holding for decades.
So ML, Terry just said on a comment that, dude, you're on Facebook arguing to shut down Facebook. Terry, I would recommend you switch over to watch us on C-SPAN because the resolution is far better over there.
And I hope Terry shut down next.
What about the political consequences of this? I mean, young people aren't going to be real happy. What is 168 million people do TikTok? Does any of you do TikTok? I don't.
If you're on Facebook, if you look at the reels that come on,
right?
I do because I'm retired, and it's awesome. You'll find stuff on TikTok that come up, but this I want to know how many shootings were as a result of TikTok. How many, I mean, I think that there's lots of things to be regulated in this country before we go after social media. We're on a social media platform right now, and all of our information, our algorithms, everything is being harvested on this. Everything we do, if you have one of these, your life is out there everywhere. I mean, there's really no privacy, and in the meantime, there are real things happening. So I guess I think that this bill, I think TikTok got through in that bill because Republicans hate anything that has to do with China. And that's what pushed it through, which, you know, you need the aid packages, you need all this stuff, but it's smoke and mirrors, and it isn't going to do a single fucking thing. So,
Barb,
yeah,
you think that's
true.
You think
You're right,
think
Terry.
that's bad? People are mining the data from this program, and there's a
Yeah,
stand-up
it's sad.
comedian, and there's a stand-up comedian in Bhutan who's using my material. So
You know what?
you think?
Go ahead, Elrick.
Terry's back saying that we only got the George Floyd video because of Facebook. Well, my friend, go to the Washington Post, which is a traditional media. They took every camera angle they could find, and they took the George Floyd incident from the earliest moment they could find to the end, and they put it all together in a journalistic and a responsible way, and you saw what really happened. Facebook would have just showed you something. They could have put a deep fake up. It could have put some crap up. The powerful video, the powerful storytelling was done by a responsible media that if they libeled somebody would face consequences. If they put video up that was inappropriate would face consequences. Social media, I could put video up of me having sex with an old girlfriend on this channel right now and face no consequences. Where if I published it, I could be prosecuted or sued for libel or whatever. If I put it on broadcast media, I could face losing my license. I mean, outrageous. It's outrageous how these social media companies answer to no one but the shareholders. We have regulations in this country to try and keep conglomerates from ruling the whole country.
That's right. ML, a 17-year-old girl, stood there with tears running down her face and filmed the murder live on Facebook. And that's how it started. And it never would have happened if she hadn't had the nerve. And that young woman had death threats, had to hide. Yes, the media came in and swept up and did it, but it never would have happened if she hadn't had the presence of mind to whip out her phone and put that on there. It would not have happened at all.
She can still post that without Facebook being allowed to live stream suicides. I'm not saying don't broadcast things that are journalistically appropriate, but I am also saying that journalism does broadcast stuff like that in a better and more complete way. But so you want to see raw porn, abusive things, people taken advantage of because something.
I do not. But you can't deny that happened. You can't deny that the spark that lit under the George Floyd murder happened because of that. You just said that.
Get rid of the garbage.
That's what that is.
You still have that video. And by the way, Rodney King, we saw what happened to Rodney King without Facebook, right?
That's right.
So it's possible.
Will that ever happen again?
What's that?
I think that broadcast media has locked down a lot of these things. I think sometimes something gets through, but the media companies, I don't think that the broadcast networks want any of that stuff to come through until they've had a chance to go over it. I think newspapers are still, not in Detroit, but I think in general, I think newspapers still have legitimacy in reporting. But I think that they're no.
Detroit newspapers aren't legitimate?
I don't think they're very legitimate, ML. I'm sorry.
See ya. Crazy time now. I'm out on that. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. Well,
enjoy your pension in Detroit newspapers.
Well, speaking of coverage,
I earned it. You'll get one because of how I fought for it.
So we have a viewer who is a British Army veteran.
Next is nuts.
A British Army veteran who is talking about the delusions of grandeur of people like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. As a former Brit and one who still has a UK passport along with his US passport, thank you for your service. Moving on to a lot of coverage that is both on social media and other sources. We have a series of pro-Palestinian camps that have been set up on various college campuses across the nation. I think, Allan, you've got a video.
These are live pictures of their encampment coming in from Ann Arbor right now, right in the center campus. This has been going on for a couple of days. They've been calling on, as the other protesters have, the university to cut financial ties to Israel. So you see one of the speakers at that encampment for Gaza. See the big word there, divest. Now, some students certainly are raising concerns about all of this, and especially about a banner like this that was seen at one of the protests It reads, "Long live the Intifada," an Arabic word that mean uprising or resistance, and some interpret that as a call for attacks, literally on Jewish people. And
Actually, not on Jewish people, but on Israeli occupation. But I don't think that really applies here in the U.S. So it seems like the first real encampment that was getting attention was Colombia, but now it has spread to several campuses around the nation, including most recently the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. But what seems to be very disturbing, and certainly redolent of images from 1968, are that of police deployments using force and violence under what are seen as peaceful protests at UT Austin. We have police in full combat gear, including mounted police. We have at Emory University reports of the use of tear gas and rubber bullets, and throwing professors onto the ground and hog tying them, and also at Ohio State and Indiana universities, where you have snipers that are positioned on top of buildings. What is going on?
Well, cops will be cops. I mean, that's what they do, and they love to do it, and they've got all their toys, so they're going to employ them whenever they're unleashed. Let's go back to, though, the long live the Intifada. I think given that there's an attempt at diverting the conversation from what Israel is doing in Gaza to that there's this anti-Semitism at the root of these encampments is something to examine. So I think the students, I mean, I don't think they're going to listen to me any more than I would have listened to somebody my age way back in the day, that they've got to be very careful about signs, about individuals saying inappropriate remarks, because that is the debate. I mean, Trump said that the hate that is in those encampments is worse than was at Charlottesville. I mean, and Mike Johnson goes to Columbia. So it's part of this whole attempt to divert the conversation from what the intent of the protesters is.
I think it's also becoming, it's a little bit more confusing when you've got actually Jewish students holding Passover Seder with the Muslim students on campus. There was a scene at Ohio State last night where the police were trying to come in and take out a bunch of Muslim students who were praying, and you had Muslim and Jewish students who had cordoned off with a chain trying to protect them. So I'm not sure that the binaries of Jewish and Arab and Muslim very easily apply, as you said, Peter, in this case.
Other than in the Detroit area, Jews are in the leadership of these encampments. Jewish Voice for Peace, Not in Our Name, individual Jewish citizens. 300, and I assume most of them were Jewish, were arrested at Senator Schumer's house carrying out a Seder. So, I mean, it's totally spurious to trying to cast any of this in an anti-Semitic manner. I've been to a lot of demonstrations. I'm sorry, I'll just real quickly.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've been at tons of rallies and demonstrations and what have you. And the only time I've ever heard the word Jew or Jewish mentioned is when the Arab American or Muslim speakers are talking about our Jewish allies, our Jewish friends. I mean, I wouldn't be part of anything that even had a whiff of that. So it's all bullshit.
Helen.
I've got absolutely no problem with people protesting. I mean, anytime there's war, as Hemingway always said, no matter how justified, war is still a crime. The fact that people are protesting around the country is fine. I think and I talked to Rebecca Cook, who's some of us are friends with, and she's been going up to Ann Arbor for Reuters, and I asked her, has there been any anti-Semitism, any attacks on Jewish students? And she said, no, it's been very calm. And so there has been in some universities, I think sometimes where students, particularly, it's the same thing if a woman with a hijab is walking by, people know, and if there's an anti-Muslim sentiment going around for something around the world and she gets attacked, it's the same thing where we're seeing sometimes people with yarmulkes walking around and they're being, it's kind of a vigilante kind of mentality of there's a Jew, there's a Muslim, but I think it's America, and people certainly have a right to protest. And so long as they're not attacking. You know, it's just part of the world. I mean, I think all of us would love to see a ceasefire. I would love to see a ceasefire with the return of the hostages. And finally, I would love to see all the Arab countries come together and work on a solution for, I'd like to see Israel get out of the West Bank. I'd like to see, you know, but at the same time, I'd like to see the you know, the people in Gaza and the people in West Bank agree to police their own people so that Israel doesn't have to. If Israel says, hey, we've heard of the plot that there's a group planning on attacking us, take care of it, like they do in Egypt and Jordan. It's so complicated. I'm for a two-state solution, but it has to be a mutual, you know, on both sides. Go ahead, Peter. You're shaking your head.
I was going to say, getting 750,000 crazed right-wing religious settlers out of the West Bank is never. It can't happen. For one thing, Israel, whose economy has been nosediving about 20% because of this war and all, can't absorb 750,000 people. There would literally be a civil war if they had.
Well, they removed, and it was only 8,000 in Gaza, but they did remove them, and there was fighting, and the soldiers had to come in. When I was in Jerusalem at the end of 2022, there's an apartment that they've turned into a museum on Gaza, and it's very like, oh my gosh, how horrible. We were removed from Gaza, and you had the right wing, Smotrich and Ben Gvir, part of Netanyahu's crazy administration, who are like, yeah, let's go back into Gaza and let's develop. You had Trump's son-in-law saying, oh my God, there's a lot of great beachfront property in Gaza. You know, I mean, it's just a sick mentality there that we've got to, but we also have some Arab countries who need to participate, and a lot of them, like Egypt, they don't really want to they're afraid of Hamas. They don't want it to deal, but they want Israel to eliminate them. And so we have to, you know, Clinton did a great job of taking Arafat and Rabin and grabbing them by the scruffs of the collar and saying, we are going to have fucking peace here. And we need to grab both sides in that same way and say enough, and put pressure on everybody, including Qatar, and, you know, and the U.S. has to put on Israel and Hamas. And we've got to, it's crazy what's going on there. I mean, the death toll is just insane.
So the reporting actually out of Qatar, Allan, is something that doesn't really get picked up in the media here, but that Hamas actually has offered to dismantle its military wing, keep its political wing similar to Sinn Féin and IRA, with the IRA, and has also said that they would recognize Israel along 1967 borders. That is something that Netanyahu himself has rejected, as he's rejected overtures for a release of hostages, because he wants to go all in, and he feels emboldened that Biden will allow him to. And it seems as though right now the plans of going into Rafah are back on. So I think that the reporting is probably as complicated as the what's going on the ground.
I think what you see there is Israel keeps saying, okay, we're going to go into Rafah unless you return the hostages. Netanyahu doesn't really care about the hostages. Netanyahu doesn't care about the Palestinians. The Hamas doesn't really care so much about the Palestinians. They do want to keep themselves in power. So what's happening is Israel's on the ground and in the air, bombing the shit out of Gaza. And the more that happens, the public relations, the more leverage Hamas gets, where the world becomes more and more outraged. So Hamas is like, yeah, go ahead into Rafah and kill more people. And you know what? Our leverage is only going to go like this. So it's so fucked up. And we need to disassemble that bad, you know, thing that's going on there.
I think if Hamas was reduced to just a political wing and it didn't have the muscle of the military or paramilitary behind it, it's highly unlikely that it could win an election, especially if the West Bank and Gaza held it together. At the same time, the PA has become so weakened by the Israelis, and they won't allow someone like a Mustafa Barghouti out of prison who would actually unite the Palestinians behind him and be a far better choice than the two choices that are there right now. So we're really in a stalemate.
When I took a tour of Bethlehem at the end of 2022, I was the only American and probably the only Jew in this tour. And our tour guide was a Palestinian Christian. And he said, you know, if it wasn't for Israel, there would be all-out war between Fatah and Hamas. And he said it would be so ugly. And so, I mean, and that's the thing that Netanyahu has been able to nurture, is that division there between the two, that, you know, the hatred between the two sides there. And it's, I mean, it has, you know, first of all, I got to get rid of Netanyahu, and, you know, Sinwar and for Hamas and stuff. We've got to get, the extremists are driving the agenda here, and they're killing, you know, it's resulting in a lot of deaths.
Well, I suspect Hamas has essentially said they would agree to a two-state solution, knowing Israel never will, and they will never agree to a one-state solution. So their only strategic alternative is to do what they're doing. The only, as long as we're looking at unrealistic solutions, a truth and reconciliation process where Israel admits that the Palestinians are the aggrieved parties in this equation, and saying, what can we do to make it right? Which, when they say we'll make it right, Israel say we're never doing that, because it essentially would mean the end of a Jewish state. Meir Kahane, right, this fascist Israeli, said Israel can either be Jewish or democratic, because, you know, the one state solution, soon enough the Jews are in the minority. Allowing an autonomous Palestinian state that has a military on Israel's border, they're never going to allow that. So
I think when you see, look, Netanyahu, I agree with you 100%. Netanyahu doesn't want a two-state solution, but you know what? At least in the charters of Hamas, they don't want a two-state solution either. They don't want the existence of Israel. And so you have the extremists there, and we've got you know, in every battle like that, you have the extremists at the top. You have to dislodge them in the second tier of people who want to live a life. There's plenty of Palestinians and Israelis who just want to live life without the constant fear of war and death.
I think one of the things, Alan, is that if Hamas is, as the reporting seems to indicate, willing to accept a 1967 line, then that implicitly means at least that they are disavowing their charter of eliminating Israel. The problem is for Netanyahu is, I don't think he wants, as Peter said, any kind of a Palestinian state. So that might be the impasse. Well, I want to end on a little piece of good news, and especially, I think, Barb, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Tennessee auto workers at the Volkswagen plant have voted to join the UAW.
Yep. It's a beautiful thing, and I think no one thought it could be done. I think Sean Fain is a hero. I think Sean Fain will end up being if Biden is reelected, he will be the new Secretary of Labor, because he is serious as can be. And I think next he's just going to head further south, and we're going to get plant after plant. I think the momentum is there. I couldn't be more pleased. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Long time.
I think they're talking about perhaps the next would be Mercedes-Benz. Is that happening in Alabama?
Yep, they're down there now. It's great. It's great.
All right. Well, let's see where this one goes. Well, let's go to a commercial, Alan.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your garden supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
All right, and now
downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
Okay, it is that time of the show for Schmuck of the Week. ML, we'll start with you.
Oh boy. Well, I guess if you think the local media who exposed public corruption, who's held elected officials accountable, who's stopped proper care, juvenile offenders, who's gotten innocent people out of prison, who've done the job to keep this city from going down the drain, is illegitimate. The week.
I think you just got nominated, Barbara.
I'm excited. I think I earned it.
You finally won.
I won a lot, ML.
That might be a first as far as happening in real time with somebody on the show.
I do want to say, look, there is the newspapers are not what they used to be. I mean, we used to have everyone covering, we had a labor reporter, 2 education writers, we had 3 city hall reporters. We had, it's a skeleton of what it is, but there is still some good stuff coming out of both papers.
I think there's great reporters there. In my time at the papers, I would watch Rick Snyder stroll into the offices of Nolan Finley weekly.
Yeah.
And I'm happy you still believe in it. ML, I don't. So there you go. Lots and lots and lots of great in Detroit.
And I have to say, ML is old school. Some of his columns have really, really hit home, I think, in terms of the corruption of our politicians and stuff. And it's like we don't have enough of that coming from either paper, but he is certainly delivering.
I'm a schmuck too, but I'm just saying I have a lot of colleagues who are doing stories and exposing things that nobody else would. And the fact we don't have 500 anymore, the fact that we're a small band trying to hold our ground and trying to bring justice to this jurisdiction, to say that's illegitimate, that's crazy talk.
Oh, well.
All right. Okay, Barb.
I am going to go, and I usually don't choose them, but I think Donald Trump equating Charlottesville with the protests on the college campuses right now it's a sickening thing. There's a photo that came through the AP this morning of snipers at Ohio State, which is like, wait, haven't we been down this road before?
I think
Neil
Young. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And I think that I really am afraid that something very bad is going to happen. I really hope that nothing bad happens. And I hope that all of our citizens out there with their cell phones and their internet are able to capture everything that's happening, because they're in the middle of it. And seeing what's going on at the time is what's going to help us get through this somehow. But let's just hope that it doesn't. But Trump in so many ways is my schmuck this week.
All right, Peter.
Well, you stole my schmuck. Barb.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, doesn't he win every week, and particularly for that remark, without a doubt. So he earns it once again.
Yep.
We used to have it. This was our original thing when we started Schmuck of the Week.
And now it's time for Deadline Detroit's nominees for Schmuck of the Week.
Great picture, by the way.
Absolutely. Okay, Joel.
Okay. One thing that I before the schmuck is I wonder when, because there's a lot of graduation and kids are leaving campuses now, what that's going to have on some of the protests. If a lot of kids are going to be going home, I'm really curious to know what's going to go with that. But my schmucks of the week are those Supreme Court Republicans who are looking to make the executive impenetrable, above the law and above the people. And we'll be going toward more a fascist state. This is where we're leading. The tea leaves are easy to read at this point. So it's pretty scary. It's a scary time, and I would, again, I've always said I'm a fucking lawyer. I've devoted my life to this for 40 years, and I've always had faith in courts. I've always had a benevolent look at the courts, and that's changed. I have very little faith in the judicial system at this point, and the Supreme Court is terrifying me. So I've been practicing civil rights my whole life, and I just see them being cut away, and it's tragic.
What did you think of Brett Kavanaugh saying the special counsel law has gone too far when he was part of the team that, as a special counsel, brought Lewinsky into? I was like, Brett Kavanaugh, please, leave the state. You're more corrupt than Clarence Thomas on this.
The hypocrisy is fucking maddening. The whole thing is maddening. And the older you get, quite frankly, the more you see, and the more discouraging it becomes. At least for me. So that's my schmucks.
Right.
All right, Allan.
Sorry, kind of a downer.
I've got two. One, David Pecker for never changing his last name.
Oh, he's the best. That's cool.
I mean, come on. You're gonna your whole life you go through the last name Pecker. You think you could change it, Peckerman or something.
Pecker.
And the other one is Michael Cohen, who's supposedly going to be a witness here, and he's going on social media. I would hate it if I were the prosecutor, and he's calling Trump Van Shits in the pants, and stuff like that. I would not, as a prosecutor, want one of my key witnesses to be doing stupid shit like that. And so, I guess once a schmuck, always a schmuck. So.
All right. Key witness in that is Karen McDougal. She's, she is going to be a real critical witness.
David Hot Dog. There we go.
David Hot Dog is better. There you go. Yeah, because David Oscarmeyer Karen might be copyrighted. So there you go. All right. Well, I've got a couple of schmucks. One schmuck just came over the wire 2 days ago. In a New York Post op-ed, this is professor of law at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and also the founder of the blog Instapundit, Glenn Harland Reynolds, in an op-ed saying, Jewish students, come here to the South where you will be safe. In light of the protests that are going around, this idea that you don't need elite universities, you can come to the South. I found it to be rather tone-deaf because 60 years ago, this year, Andrew Goodman and Michael Schwerner were not safe in the South, along with James Chaney, when they were murdered by the Ku Klux Klan for simply registering African Americans to vote. So I'm not sure if Glenn Harlan Reynolds, he may be a professor of law, but probably not of history. But here's one on your behalf, Peter, because since Barb had yours, we always keep some backups. My schmucks of the week go to the goons in India who apparently are running a racket in New Delhi at the Paharganj Hotel, that if an unsuspecting person comes back to the room, almost immediately a bunch of goons barge into the room with a fully naked woman and force the person to take compromising pictures with said nude woman and then extort them for money, lest these photos then are broadcast every way to bring shame and ignominy to them. The going rate
complicated.
Yes, the going rate. The going rate is apparently 15,000 rupees, which is $180. But for 20,000 rupees, you get a full set of matte, and for 30,000 rupees, you get a full set of glossy pictures suitable for framing. So, okay, I might have added those two last ones in there. But yes, we're going ahead and shaking people down with a nude woman just sort of showing up. India, goons, Paharganj Hotel.
You got to recruit the nude woman. You're involved here. Okay.
I mean, if any of you have seen a Bollywood movie, this is far more complex than even those. Where the plot twists are like, trying to park a car right now in downtown Detroit parallel because of the draft. Before we end, I do want to throw it back to Allan for a tribute of a dearly departed.
Yes. So we all remember Danny Fenster, who was detained, a journalist who was from Detroit, who was detained in a Myanmar prison for 6 months before he was finally released. Well, he's been back in Bangkok helping his paper. All the Myanmar journalists have gone to the Bangkok and the surrounding areas in Thailand to work out of there to continue their publications. And he's been helping his publication, Myanmar Frontier, raising money, continue publishing. His grandmother, 98 years old, Holocaust survivor, passed away on Wednesday. And they didn't tell her that he was being detained for 6 months until he was released, and they finally told her. And then here's a little video of him being reunited with her. She was in a nursing facility.
Hello. Hey.
My beautiful grandson, you went through hell. You were accused. Oh my God. Oh, he got out of jail. You know what? Ask him, what did I say? I said they hold you hostage.
Yeah.
Look at what they did it to you. Did you suffer?
Did I? No. I mean, it doesn't matter now.
Good
here.
times.
I'm here.
Oh my God. But I'm head you in America.
Yeah.
I love her reaction. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So she passed away on Wednesday. So
all right. Well, may her memory be a blessing. And were they playing AC Ducey, or what game was that? Or was that Gin Rummy?
Rummy Q.
Rummy Q. Okay.
Rummy Q. It's big. It's big in the nursing facilities.
Okay. I guess because somebody must have stolen that one mahjong tile that ruined the whole set. All right. Well, listen. Thank you for another wonderful episode. Thank you, ML Elrick. Thank you, Peter Werbe. Thank you, Barb Ingalls. Thank you, Joel Sklar. And as always, thank you. And with the last word, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely.
Have a great weekend. Go NFL draft.